continue this series. You know, I think I've talked to you about this before. I'm a big Michael Jordan fan. Some of you know. I like it. Any Michael Jordan fans? Anybody like to watch Michael Jordan play basketball? I mean, it's just amazing to watch this guy play basketball. It really is. I mean, the things he does, the dunks, it almost seemed like he was flying at times. You know, he'd go through the air. Almost seemed miraculous, you might say. I mean, sometimes I've seen him go up with one hand and switch hands and then throw it. I mean, just some unbelievable stuff. And oftentimes I found myself just shaking my head saying, did that really happen? Did that really happen? Did that happen? You know? And if it wasn't for replay, I probably wouldn't believe my eyes. But you know, thank goodness they have instant replay. They can show it back, and you call people from the other, come look at this, look at this. He just look what he did. And then you catch it on ESPN, and they show it 4 more times, and then it's the highlight reel, and it goes on forever. But initially, you find yourself saying, did that really happen? I mean, I guess that's why they call him the greatest. You know, a lot of people call Michael Jordan the greatest of all time. I disagree with that. I don't think Michael Jordan's the greatest. I think he's pretty good. Well, he's great. But he's great at basketball. But, I mean, he's not the greatest of all time. Jesus Christ is the greatest of all time. He's the one who really does miracles. The walking on water, raising people from the dead, feeding 5,000. I mean, those are real miracles. Those are real miracles. But why do you think Jesus did so many miracles? Why do you think that is? I think miracles have a purpose. I think miracles have a purpose, and it's to remind us that God's real. God's real, and He loves you. And He wants to heal you and restore you to the life He had intended for you. You see, Jesus met a lot of people on this journey when He was here on earth. And He met them where they were. It was real life. And some of them were struggling. And some of them needed to be healed. Some of them were down. You ever been in any of those places? You ever struggled? You ever been down? You ever felt like you need to be healed? You need to be picked up? That's where Jesus met people. And He performed these wonderful acts, we call them miracles, right? These things that can't be explained away. These things that leave you shaking your head saying, that really happened? Wow, did that really happen? But we know they happen, right? They're in the Scripture. Multiple accounts, sometimes of the same miracles, sometimes different miracles we find in the Gospels. But there's numerous accounts of different types of miracles of healing. And not just healing some, but healing all those people who were brought to Him. Right? All types of miracles. Walking on water. Raising people from the dead who've been dead for several days. Those are miracles. Right? Anybody not think that's a miracle? Those are miracles. And we should, there's some people who doubt it. Some people say, that can be explained by science, and the way it blew, and so-and-so, he wasn't really dead, he was asleep, and and they can do all that, but I don't doubt any part of miracles. I think they're all real. And I think, the only doubt that I've seen anybody say or give argument with can be explained in a humorous story about a gentleman who was fishing and didn't catch anything. And on his way home, he stopped by the fish market and asked for 3 large fish. And as the guy was wrapping them, he said, no, throw them to me first. So that way I can say I caught them. And not be lying. Right. You see, the only argument you can really say about the miracles is that they were all seen and reported by fishermen. So, so there might be some skeptics there. But in reality, they had little to do with fishing and even less to do with the fishermen who saw them. So I think Jesus' miracles are very real. Very real. And I can't help but think of the disciples as they were around, those days, and these miracles occurred. And I can't, they had to turn to each other and say, did that really happen? Did that really just occur? Think about that if you were there. If you were there and saw some of these miracles, we're going to go over some of these miracles. Did that really happen? Did he just really heal all those people? And we know it wasn't just a few people, right? Let's look at some scripture here. And I want to show you that it wasn't really just a couple people. Because a lot of people think it just happens to be a few people, the blind man, But it really wasn't. Let's look at something. In Matthew, we're going to start Matthew 4:24, and it says, and if you can't keep up, you might have to trust me. Otherwise, you might be here 2 hours. But we're going to cover a little bit of scripture here. But if you want to follow on Matthew 4:24, it says, they brought to him all who were ill, those suffering with various diseases and pains and demonics, epileptics, paralytics, and he healed them. Does it say there he healed some of them? Anybody see that? Or healed one or two? Or an occasional one? It says they brought him all's a key word, all those who were suffering. And he healed them. Right? It was all the people. And if we turn to Matthew 21:14, it says, the blind and the lame came to him at the temple, and he healed them being plural, more than one. Right? And if we skip over to Matthew 15:30, it said, great crowds came to him, bringing the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute, and many others, and laid them at his feet, and he healed them. Say anything about one, occasional, two, maybe sporadically? No, he healed all of them, right? And Matthew 12:15 says, a large crowd followed him, and he healed all who were ill. So you see, it wasn't really selective, was it? Because Jesus came for everyone, didn't he? Right? He's here for you, for me, for those people in the past, those people in the future who haven't arrived yet. Jesus came for everyone. The ones who are in church this morning, the ones who need to be in church this morning, right? The ones who don't even know there's a church this morning. Jesus came for all of them, right? And those miracles will let all of us know that he was sent from God. That he was God's gift to us. His birth was a miracle. His whole life was a miracle. His resurrection was a miracle. His ascension was a miracle. All those things are things that just don't happen in everyday life, right? Jesus Christ, the greatest miracle of all, was sent to all people. A light sent into the darkness. Right? To be a reflection of God's love for each of us. A miracle. Right? And there were many miracles. He didn't just heal the sick or that was it, or raise it. He walked on water into wine, calm storms. He did all these things. They're all recorded in the Gospels. Numerous miracles. As a matter of fact, John 21:25 says, Jesus did many other things as well. If every one of them were written down, I suppose that even the whole world would not have enough room for the books that would be written. In other words, we've got the tip of the iceberg about the miracles in the Gospel. But there should be no doubt that Jesus was a miracle worker. That he met people where they were and he transformed their life. And for the better. Kind of like when he meets us, isn't it? When you're saved and you're changed, right? Jesus meets you where you are. And you're changed for heaven, right? And for the better. Mm-hmm. And for the better. You see, it's hard to imagine Jesus' ministry without these miracles. And I want to look at a few of the miracles. If we look at John 11, 1 through 44 now, that's the story of Mary and Martha and their brother Lazarus. It says, Mary and Martha, sisters of Lazarus of Bethany, sent Jesus a message that his friend Lazarus was ill. Jesus stayed 2 days longer in the place he was, before setting out for Bethany. When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Martha told Jesus that if he had been here, her brother would not have died. But Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Jesus asked where Lazarus was laid out. Jesus began to weep as they walked to the tomb. I like that. Jesus began to weep. And he experienced human emotions just like me and you. You know? He knows when you're sad. He knows what that feels like. And he knows what it's like to have a friend pass. He's experienced that pain that comes with that. But it doesn't stop there. It says, Jesus wept as he walked to the tomb. The tomb was a cave with a stone laying against it. He asked to have the stone removed. Martha said to him, Lord, already there is a stench because he has been dead 4 days. In other words, it's already smelling. We don't need to be taking that stone out of the way. But Jesus answered her. He said, did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? Did I not tell you if you believed, you would see the glory of God? In other words, if you have some faith, you're going to be able to see the glory of God. When the stone was removed, Jesus looked upward and prayed to the Father. He then cried out in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out with his hands, feet, and face wrapped in cloth. Jesus said to them, unbind him, let him go. Can you imagine him hopping out? Can you imagine? Because it says that everything was bound. He was wrapped up in his burial. So his feet were bound. Here he comes hopping out of. Can you imagine the faces of the people standing there? Can you imagine how many jaws actually hit the ground when he came hopping out of that tomb? And I can only imagine that somewhere in that crowd, someone turned to somebody else and said, that really added up. Are you seeing this? Am I imagining this? Or is he really hopping out of that tomb? Did this really just happen? It's one of those, did this really just happen moments? That's what miracles are about. Did this really just happen? Our next miracle we'll look at is on John 9, 1 through 41. It says, Jesus saw a man who was blind from birth, and he spat on the ground and made mud with the saliva and spread the mud on the man's eyes, telling him to go and wash in the pool of Siloam. The man did this and was able to see. The people who had known the man were astounded, and they brought the Pharisees to him after many questions, which also included asking questions of the man's parents. The Pharisees could not accept the fact that Jesus had healed this man who was born blind. Another miracle. This man who was born blind could now see. Wasn't any LASIK surgery here. Just some mud and water and spit. That was it. If you were standing there, would you have asked that question? Did this really just happen? Did he really just... And he saw. Does that make any sense? I don't know any doctor that's going to prescribe that. Let's say you get you a little spit. And you go get you some mud. And we're going to mix the spit and the mud. We're going to rub it real good. We're going to put it on your eyes. And then you're going to wash and you're going to see. A miracle, right? And it did just happen. It did just happen. And what about the miracle of that's recorded in all the Gospels? About the large crowd that had gathered. You remember that one? On the grass. Jesus had them sit down. They didn't have nowhere to go to eat. 5 5,000 men, that's just men. 5,000 men. Doesn't include the women and children. And Andrew brought this boy to him and had, what, 5 loaves and 2 fish. Must have been some big fish. 2 fish. And Jesus said to feed them. And everybody ate. The disciples gathered back up there. And they had 12 baskets filled with leftovers. Now, I don't know if you've ever planned a dinner party. But 5,000 people, 5 loaves, 2 fish. That's barely even a fish sandwich. I'm just saying. How do you feed 5,000 plus people with, I tell you how. With God's help, all things are possible. With God's help, miracles happen. With God's help, lives are changed, right? What about the, in Matthew, you can see Matthew 8:23 through 27, we see the story of Jesus calming the Sea of Galilee, right? Him and his disciples had gone out on the boat. Jesus was asleep in the cushion in the stern of the boat. The wind comes up. The waves start pelting the rocking the boat. These are fishermen, but they're scared. They go and they wake up Jesus. And he calms the sea. I'm pretty sure they said, did that really just happen? I'm pretty sure it came out of their mouth that time. Almost for sure. Did that really just happen? Did he just stand up? Who is this man who calmed the sea? Scripture said they were in awe. So I'm pretty sure after they got their jaws off the ground, they said, did that just happen? Did you see that too? That he just calmed the sea. Who is this miracle worker? It's Jesus, of course. Right? The Son of God. That's how he does it. Because he's the Son of God. We don't expect anything less. And when he attended the party and his mother came to him and said, they're out of wine. And he turns the water into wine. Now, we're not talking, he turned it into Boone's Farm wine. We're talking about the good stuff. We're talking about he turned the water into premium wine, the best that had been served at the party. I'm pretty sure they said, did that really just happen? Right? This is some good stuff. Did that just happen? Wasn't that just water a few minutes ago? Did that really just happen? And we could go on and on and on and list all the miracles that Jesus had, because there's a bunch of them in here. And the question at the end would always be the same. Did that really just happen? And of course, we know that it did, right? We know Jesus is the Son of God, but they must have been in awe at that time. To see those things happen, those miraculous signs, people healed, people raised from the dead, Jesus walking on water, calming seas, turning water into wine, people being healed just by touching the hem of his cloak. The blind could see, the lame could walk. Yes, indeed, miracles happen. We know that, don't we? We read it in the Gospels. And we know the Holy Scripture to be true. It's where our whole faith is based. But these stories are true. But perhaps the bigger question for us today is this. We can sit here and say, yes, I believe those miracles happen. But the question is, do miracles still happen today? Does God still perform miracles today? And even though we live in probably with the knowledge of the most science and the most technology of mankind, the history of humanity, the answer is yes. miracles still happen today. Because God's love for us hasn't changed, has it? No, indeed, it has not. And He still reaches down and touches us from time to time. Because what is a miracle? Do you know? Let me give you a couple of definitions. St. Augustine said, a miracle is the occurrence which is contrary to what is known of nature. C.S. Lewis said, I use the word miracle to mean an interference with nature by supernatural power. William Barclay says, a miracle is an event in which God's power has made a special entry into our lives. I like that. God's power has made a special entry into our lives. He's reached down and He's touched our lives. Or if you prefer Webster's, it says, such an effect or an event manifesting or considered as a work of God. Have you seen God at work lately? You know, I think sometimes we get so caught up that we don't see that God intervenes from time to time. You know, when someone's given a diagnosis and says, you know, they have 6 months to live, or 4 weeks to live, or a week to live, and they live 5 or 6 years, the doctors can't explain it. You don't think that's a miracle? I think that's a miracle. Or when the doctor gives up hope. And I can tell you, I've seen instances where I know of this girl in Greenville where we used to live, and she had a heart condition, and it got so bad she was bleeding out of her ears. I mean, they had just given up. And she came home. And she lived another 7 years, I think. A lot of people were praying for her. I believe God performs miracles. When you pass by a wreck and you see a car twisted up like a pretzel and you don't know how anybody could even be taken out of that car, and you hear that the driver walked away, God performs miracles today. When the teenager takes out the trash without being asked, God performs miracles. As a matter of fact, we get Jesus asking that question, will miracles never cease? Doesn't it? God creates. Or God reaches down and He touches us in a lot of ways. A lot of miraculous ways. I can tell you from my own experience, and I've shared with you before, God has touched me in many ways and performed many miracles in my life through other people. I can tell you, I'll remind you of the story of when I was about to go to seminary and I was moving and I didn't have a job lined up, or my wife didn't have a job lined up, we didn't have money to move, we didn't know how we were going to get from North Carolina to Kentucky, and all of a sudden I was working at a church, and all of a sudden one day I get a piece of mail from an investment company. I think it was EFA, but investment company. And I said, oh, they think I have money. And I started to throw it away. I thought it was one of those, flyers, invest with us. And thank goodness I did, because I opened it up and there was a check for $5,000 that someone had sent to me to help finance my trip. They wanted to be left anonymous. That's a miracle. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I said, that just happened. I said that. Because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that somebody would do that. How does that just happen? I can tell you how it happens, because God touched somebody's heart and somebody felt moved to be a part of God's work and help God perform a miracle in my life. Because I hadn't asked anybody for money. I hadn't told anybody I didn't have any money to move to Kentucky. I just knew that I was supposed to be in Kentucky in January to start seminary, and there was a seat waiting for me. I had been accepted, and that somehow God was going to provide for me to be there, and sure enough, He did. You see, I consider that a miracle. Because that's one of those times when God reaches down and touches us through someone else. It doesn't always have to be a healing. Some of the best miracles aren't so grand and aren't seen to other people. Some of the biggest miracles occur right here in a man's heart. When you can take a man who has no forgiveness in his heart and is filled with hatred and spite, And you can turn that heart into one filled with love and forgiveness and compassion. That's a miracle. That's something only God can do. And that, my friend, is a miracle. So yes, the answer is miracles do occur. And God does them sometimes by himself, and sometimes he asks you to help. Sometimes, like whoever sent me that check, he asks for somebody to be a part of his miracle. To be a miracle in somebody else's life. You know, and God sometimes tells me to send checks to people. And it used to be I'd argue about the amount. He'd say 100, I'd say about 50. 50's good. He'd say 100, I'd say okay, 100. Eventually I'd lose the argument anyway, so I just quit arguing. Now I just write the check. If God says, write Billy a check, I'll send Billy a check tomorrow. If I feel like that's what God tells me to do. But I don't really even question it, and I'll tell you why. I said, because I know that I'm being part of a miracle for somebody else. I don't know why that person needs that money. I don't know what they're going to do with that money, but I know God wants me to give them that money. Okay. So by following that, I don't have to see their face when they get it. I don't even want them to know it came from me, because I know what's going to come out of their mouth. There's going to be a smile on their face, and you go, that just really happened. Because that's a miracle. That's part of the miracles that God performs each and every day, right? Have you ever been in those moments where you said, did that just really happen? Where something fantastic has happened to you and you just can't explain it, you're like, did that just happen? Or you see somebody escape harm and you're just like, how did that happen? I can tell you how it happened. It's God's hand at work. It's God's hand at work, and the next time you get into that moment and you feel yourself saying, did that just happen? Remember, that's God's hand at work. And smile and look up into the heavens and say, thank you. Thank you for reaching out and touching my life. And all God's people said,
Amen.
Amen.